Joining us now from Manila is political scientist Richard Heydarian, who's written widely on Duterte and Philippines politics. Richard, this is quite a turnaround by Duterte. Just picking up on that statement we just heard, has the president simply run out of political capital?
Well, I mean, one thing we have learned about populists over the past 5 years or so is that, we should not take them literally, but we should take them seriously. But sometimes perhaps we should also take them literally. And in this case, it seems President Duterte is beginning to realize that the tide is shifting and turning against him. So up to 60% of Filipinos, including majority of people from his home island of Mindanao, where he has almost 100% support throughout the years, oppose his plan to run as a vice president because many people see that as a potential backdoor for him to once again become a president, even though the Philippines post-Marcosian, post-dictatorship constitution wanted to make sure we don't have another dictator. That's why our presidents are only confined to a single 6-year term. His approval ratings, while still high, especially by Western standards, they have also suffered double-digit declines over the past few quarters. And a lot of his allies, including Senator Emmanuel Manny Pacquiao, a former ally of him, are now turning against him. So I think he's realizing that he's hitting a peak. So I think perhaps this is a peak Duterte situation, and Duterte is also accordingly trying to retrench his position in Philippine politics.
Now, there's speculation his daughter will run for president. Tell us a little bit about her.
Well, Sara Duterte is now leading the survey of potential contenders for presidency next year, but she is on a downward trajectory. Her numbers were around 28%, so she was not really a clear front runner. As we saw in the past, there were candidates who had 30–40% of the support heading into the presidential elections and didn't win, like former Vice President Binay. Her numbers were pretty good, but they're on a downwards, trajectory. She went from 28% in the second quarter of this year to around 20%, and now she's statistically tied with Ferdinand Marcos Jr., Bongbong Marcos. So I think the other big factor we're not talking about so much is the rise of the Marcoses, and the lone son and the scion of Ferdinand Marcos, the Marcos family, which used to dominate the Philippines during the dictatorship days.
Yeah, indeed. I just wanted to touch on the ICC investigation as well. The International Criminal Court has opened an investigation into Duterte's so-called war on drugs. Now, if human rights abuses are found to have taken place, how likely is it that he'll face prosecution?
Well, this is the reason why President Duterte was contemplating running as a vice president, which is quite unprecedented. We had a situation whereby a vice president became a president and ran for vice presidency, but the reverse of that is quite unprecedented. And one reason was, I think President Duterte himself admitted, he's looking for some sort of a legal immunity from potential prosecution by International Criminal Court, and we have the Global Magnitsky Act, so he could also face personal sanctions and other measures from U.S. Congress, from legislators from around the world, potentially from European Union. So we don't know if that's going to happen, but I think the fear of that or concern about that was one big reason behind why Duterte initially was considering vice presidency. But if you look at the latest surveys, he's well behind other candidates, especially Senate President Vicente Soto, who's 11 points ahead of him. So I think Duterte is realizing that even if he wants to run for vice presidency or something like that, he's going to have a hard time. So perhaps he's really reconsidering his options. But this is Duterte. This is a guy who was a substitute candidate in 2016 elections. So we don't know until 11th hour or past 11th hour what really his plans are. But clearly, we're seeing a peak Duterte situation. It seems his popularity and political capital are no longer where they used to be.
All right, Richard, we're going to have to leave it there. Political scientist Richard Heydarian in Manila, thanks very much.
Pleasure.